Okay, Chof Aleph.
Okay.
ויובן כל הסיני נתקל לתגימו קובן לצול חכם ימין בגם משמאל ועתי באמצע, כמו שנאמר בפרדס, הפנימיס הכסר, ניקר כסר, שבכסר לא נחלק לגימו קווין. מבחינת חיצוני שבו ממנו נבחלק לגימו קווין, והוא מבחינת חוכמה שבכסר חולו כידוע. וכידוע בכוונס זה הגודל, הגיבו והנוירה. וביר הדבורים, הנה מבחינת הסקלוס, הקובן ימין ושמאל, ועל ידי קו האמצעי דווקא. והעניין הוא לקו הימין חכם, הרי החסד עונף החוכמה הוא מובדל ממנה. Even though the chesed comes out, is Messiah out of the chokmah, it's really not the same thing. Chesed and chokmah are two different inyanim. But he mashni stories for chesed mitzad ha-seichel. And in other words, when you look at the general situation, it's neitel l'chesed. When you look over a person's whole thing, it's neitel l'chesed. מצד הסך והטעם, שמעתי כלפי חסד בדובר מורכב כנ"ל, וכן הנצח, עונף החסד moved על ממנו. In other words, netzach is not the same Indian of chesed, it's just that when you want to do a chesed, so therefore you have to overcome the things that get in the way. דהיינו, מצד החסד יחייב בחינת הניצוח להביא מהחסד למעשה ופועל ממש. You have to overcome the things that stand in the way. But really, netzach and chesed is two different inyanim. וקו השמאל, היפוכו, היא כמו שכל מתי כלפי דין, in other words, בינה, שנסתעף ממנו מידת הרחמן, כך מידת הדין, כך בחינת גבורה חולו. So in other words, when you start looking too much into the details, if you look too closely at a person's details, it'll tend to bring up dinim. But it's lav dafka. Really, Chochmah can bring up dinim, and Bina can bring up chasadim. If you analyze somebody like the Rebbe, for instance, you say, hey, it's everything fantastic. Even mitzad of, no matter what you look at, is always fantastic, you know. But in general, a normal person, if you start looking too close at all the details, sooner or later you'll be able to find something wrong. But it's only mistayef from it. It's not mamish the same inyan. Bina and din is two things. Pekach bina gvura, kmo shnema ani bina li gvura, da chochma mekor kol gvura, chula v'kiyadua. O b'china sa'iskaulus b'kabna al shavol et chaver b'mokam echad, du al yidei kava emtzoi dati, chula, kmo yada'at. So b'chinat nemutza lahatat meseichol shel chesed l'seichol shel din. V'nikra da'at neite. The da'as is the seichel of decision, it's called. That as long as the thing is intellectual, you remember in Fiddler on the Roof, on the other hand?
Right.
In the intellectual thing of Chochmah and Bina, there's always another hand.
Right.
It's never going to stop. You can always come up with a new maybe and a new other hand, and it'll never actually come to an actual decision. And the das means that he has to connect himself to the actual situation and person that the decision is being made about. And then he actually can mate it from a seichel of chesed to a seichel of din, and from seichel of din to a seichel of chesed. Even though the whole analysis might tell you one thing, but then when you have a feeling for the person,
right,
you'll change it. Kmo ki yetzer leiv, shenase karabara'as chulu. Like, it's exactly the same thing. The analysis is the same thing. The people are bad.
Right.
And yet, when you connect to it, when the Eibusher looked at the situation before the Mabul, he decided to destroy the world, and when he looked at the situation after the Mabul, he decided to do the opposite. Nimtza b'dad yechubar beit sichlim hafachim the chesed gvura li'et noid l'chesed ba'efen zeh v'ladin ba'efen zeh. And also, it's dafka in the das that the chokhmah and the bina, the overview of the whole thing and the details come together. Okay, Gavna. Gam b'mokam achad, even in one thing. V'kach midas hatiferes machriya ben chesed gvura trukma rachamim she'eno ela achar midas hadin. Rachamim means mercy. Mercy means that you found the guy guilty. Then you have mercy. Otherwise, it's not mercy.
Right.
Mercy is dafka after the midas hadin. She'im kol zeh rachmanus paitre. That even after that, you have rachamim on him. But rachmim is not the same like kindness. It doesn't mean that your mom is going to totally let him go. It means you put him on probation. That he has to prove himself that he's doing okay. Right?
Right.
It's a combination of the two. That means we're going to be kind with you, that we're going to give you a chance. But if you don't show that you're performing on the chance, they're going to go back to din.
Right.
Vehi midas Yaakov yadua. They can't finish Yisayid and Mutalich or Beis HaFochem, the Netzach v'Hoid. So Inyan Klal is Yatzis. Netzach and Hoid is the Shakla Vitaria on, not on the Etzem Hamida, but on how to influence to the outside.
Right.
That means, Netzach means to totally give out the thing over to the student, even if it'll totally make him crazy. You'll take the whole thing and push it into his brain at one shot, even if it blows up his brain. That's what means Netzach. Netzach means to conquer. And Hoid means that you're not going to tell him nothing. You're just going to tell him, well, listen to what I'm telling you. You just do like I told you. I'm not going to explain nothing to you.
Right.
This is what you do like with a dog. You're not allowed to cross the street. Why? You don't have to know why. That's Hoid. You just made it to me. So, Netzach means to give over the whole thing, and Hoid means to give over nothing.
Right.
And Yesod is the connection to the Mekabel, and according to the Yesod, it's like Netzach v'Hoid is the two things of the balance, yes and no, and Yesod is a fulcrum of a
right.
What's it called? Hin Tzedek.
Right. Hin Tzedek.
The hin is the fulcrum.
Right. Right.
The Moizne Tzedek, Netzach v'Hoid is Moizne Tzedek, and Yesod is called Hin Tzedek.
Right.
So, Tzedek is male for tzedakah. Tzedakah means to do a favor for another guy. And the tzedek is the guy who does the favor. Tzedakah is the thing, the makabel, the pa'ula. And tzedek is the guy who's doing it. It means the mashpia. So it's not the moznayim of what the actual midah.
Tzedek is malchus, and tzaddik is Yesod. Meaning the tzaddik is the toy.
That's one way of saying it. The other one is the tzedek and tzedakah.
Well, tzedek and tzedakah is the same thing. That's what it says in
No, it's not. That's what it says in one place. In another place, it'll tell you tzedek is male and tzedakah is female.
Right. Okay.
Tzedek is male. That means zerantin, and tzedakah is malchus.
Right.
So tzedek is Yesod. Basically, it says hin tzedek.
Right. Right.
And the thing of Yesod is the connection to the Makabel. So you see that all three of them are the connection to the Makabel. In other words, the inyan of the middle line is mamish the same thing all the way through. ולא קודם השפוץ משפיע כשצריך להשפיע עצם מידת חוג, וכמו כל שיקול דעת בא באחרו, ואחר האחרו ישקול במוזנת צדק. שהם נצח והעיד, איך להביא השפע למקבל. means that the Shikol Adas, which means the Shikol Adas is in Chabad. Then there's the Hachra'ah. The Hachra'ah is in Chagas. And after the Hachra'ah, then Yishkol b'Mozna Tzedek Shem Netzach V'Oid Ech Lahavi HaShef Al-Mekabel. How to bring out the Shef of the Mekabel. Cool. V'Vahainu Klawus Inyan Kava Emtzoi Dati Shemechaber Lebeis Kavin Deminus Moil. So I'm going to have to stop here. The next time, this is really a chapter. It's a very short chapter. It really should be. It has to be gone over with a very big E in it.
Right.
And the right and left line are not, and how it connects the two lines together, and how the Indian of the middle line is all the same, while the Indian of the separate line is just anofim mistafim. So we'll have to do that next time. Now, Moshe Shabbos, if you, I don't know how early you can call as early as you can.
All right, we'll try to call early.
Have a happy Hanukkah.
Yeah, happy Hanukkah, right.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Did you, by the way, okay, go ahead.
Now, where were we actually? We were... Mokol Shikol Adas Ba B'Achro V'Achro Yishkol B'Mozna Tzedek. Netzach V'Oid Ech Lavi HaShef Al-Mekabel Chulu V'Hainu Klal V'Tinin Kov Emtzai Dati Shemchaber Lebet Kov D'Yam in small. So, now I'm going to just go over the whole thing here. What we learned here was like this. That the right side, Hachan, is the Chesed, is the An of the Chachma, but it's not the same Inyan. And the Netzach is Mistah from the Chesed. Why? Because from Chachma, which is the brain of the overview, when you look at a person's whole situation, that's where the chesed comes from. In other words, in a court case, where does the chesed come from? We say, look at where this guy grew up, and look at his family situation. He has little kids. And when you look at the whole picture, this tends to chasodim, but it's not lavdafka. Just the opposite. The chokhmah can really tell you that it should be, din should come out of it.
Right.
And netzach, in general, comes out from chesed. And when you want to do the chesed, the thing that comes out of it is that you have to overcome the things that are in the way. But really, the thing of netzach, per se, is really almost the opposite of chesed. It's conquest.
Right.
It's almost a wonder, why would conquest be on the right side, not on the left side? You would think the conquest would be on the left side, right?
Right.
But the whole thing of conquest means spreading. You know, chad ayach v'chad ksir v'chad benuni, and that's the thing of spreading. That's why it's Indian of chesed. It's spreading your territory. It's growing.
Right.
And the left side is ani bina ligvura, and that you can see it in two ways. First of all, that from Bina is the brain of the detail. If you start nitpicking at all the details, you can always find something wrong in most people, except in very special people, so that really it doesn't have to come on Gvura. Really, Bina can come up and say, you know, look, we investigated everything, and this is a wonderful guy. It can come a chesed out of Bina, really. Also, the other thing is the thing of din, like a base din. What do they do in a base din? What they do in a base din is they do Bina, they analyze. If you ever watch on cable, like when they were showing the O.J. Simpson case, for instance.
Right.
I mean, they weren't doing anything to him. They didn't hit him or nothing. They were just analyzing. So where were you on this day, and how was that, and what is this? It's analysis.
Right.
Din is made up of, a base din is made up of analysis. And what comes out of that is Hoid, which Hoid, it says that Bina reaches till Hoid, that the fantastic amount of details brings about a thing of Hoid, that the guy's Moidis. So you can show him detail after detail after detail.
Right.
And also Gvura, a Gibor, can bring about, Moida means like to say uncle.
Right.
To be Nichna, the opposite of Netzach. Netzach means to win. And Moida means when the guy wins and you're Moida, you say, okay, you're the winner.
Right.
So, but still, Hoid is not the same inyan of Gvura or Bina. They're three different inyanim. I mean, the same thing, Chachan is really three different inyanim. And these come dafka through the middle line, which the middle line is Das, is the mind of connection. Which means the connection into something. The mind of connecting to something, in particular, in terms of connecting the Bina and Chokhmah together. The real thing where it connects the Bina and Chokhmah together is especially where it connects to the Mekabel. And also, it can connect to the Mashpia. In the Mekabel, the inyan of Das is concentration. What does it mean, Das? That he's totally concentrated on the Mashpia.
Right.
Or the Das downwards is that he's constantly totally concentrated on the Mekabel. And because he's connected to the Mekabel, that's why he can make the decision. Whereas Chokhmah and Bina by themselves couldn't make the decision. And also, that's why Das is the Maimik. Remember from chapter 1?
Right.
Dafka Das is a Maimik. Why is Das the Maimik? Because Das can connect even up to the Keser, which is the Mashpia for Chokhmah and Bina. And by doing that, it can connect Chokhmah and Bina, whereas it can take the holistic view and the particular view and put them together to come up with the actual decision. And it can also put them together to connect to the higher place in order to get deeper into the thing than the Chokhmah and Bina by themselves can do.
Right.
Right? And what is Tiferes? Tiferes is the inyan of Rachamim. And it's also the inyan of the decision between Chesed and Gvura. And it comes from the connection to the Mekabel, or in the thing of Din V'Chesed in a court, is the thing of the judge connecting to the plaintiff. It's called compassion or empathy.
Right.
Emotional empathy. That you feel, you say, well, like the judge can say, well, according to the case, the evidence doesn't look that bad, but I got a bad feeling about this guy.
Right.
So what am I going to do? I got to go according to the achlata of the case, but I'm going to give him the maximum.
Right.
So even though I can't go past the achlata of the case, but I'm going to give him the maximum.
Right.
Or on the other hand, the judge can say that it looks really bad from the evidence, but I feel something that this guy is repentant, let's say.
Right.
So I'm going to have some mercy on him, and even though really I should give him life, I'm going to give him like a certain amount of time and then parole.
Right.
Which parole is a combination of the two of them. So one of the things it does, Rachamim combines kindness and sternness into a compromise. In other words, you're not being totally kind to the guy. You're not just going to let him off, right?
Right.
It's Rachamim means that we tell the guy, listen, you're guilty, but it looks like you learned your lesson, so we're going to Not mamish let you off the hook, but we're going to give you a chance. But if you blow the chance, we're going to throw the whole book at you. Even worse than if we wouldn't have given you a chance.
Right.
You know, so it combines the two of them, but the basic thing that Rachamim is compassion, empathy to the guy, and also Tiferes is connected to Das, upwards. So it's a feeling both for the from the mashpia to the makabel, but also from the makabel to the mashpia. In other words, to ask rachamim, or to bring down rachamim. You know, like he says in Tanya, to bring down rachamim on your soul.
Right.
To feel, to bring about a feeling of rachamim on himself from upstairs.
Right.
So really, you see that it's exactly the same inyan of das, except that das is that inyan on the intellectual level. Connection.
Right.
And this is the inyan on the emotional level, connection. And Yesoid, what is Yesoid? Yesoid is the connection of the mashpia to the makabel and the makabel to the mashpia.
Right.
Same thing again. Except it's on the gut level. It's not on the actual inner emotional level. It's on the external, the pilus of the emotions. Or, in terms of teaching, it's the inyan of the shikul of netzach and height. How much to give over to the student. Netzach is to give him the whole thing. Height is to give him nothing, just he should be moided that you're right.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And Yesoid is the shikul between the two of them. The mashpia has to look and connect to the makabel. He says, how much should you give? I said, well, what do you mean how much? It depends. It depends who the makabel is. What kind of level is he on? If he's on a higher level, so you have more netzach and less height.
Right.
And if he's on a lower level, so you have to have less netzach and more height. You know, you have to, and also the whole inyan of how to bring the teaching over, and also in the inyan of a beis din, it's the inyan of the sentencing. The chagas is the actual thing of whether he's chesed or gvura, innocent or guilty.
Right.
And then the nahi is the inyan of how to sentence him, meaning that, like we said, that even though
What the consequences will be.
Even though it can be a certain din, but within that din, like in one guy, even though it's a light din, you can nonetheless throw the whole book at him, you know, etc. So we see that Yesoid is also the inyan of connection.
Right.
And all three of them are exactly the same inyan, the inyan of the connection of the mashpia to the makabel. And therefore, what is the main mashpia? The main mashpia is kesef. And the main makabel is the malchus, the late lamigar maklum. The main inyan of the mashpia is the kesef. The main inyan of the makabel is the malchus. And it's dafka the middle line that connects them.
Right.
So therefore, the middle line is actually Keser, Da'as, Tiferes, Yesoid, Malchus. Right?
Right.
To the point that Da'as actually is called Da'as Tachton, and Keser is called Da'as Elyon. So you see that not only are they the same inyan, but they're also the same inyan as the Keser itself.
Right.
And the Keser is the Malchus. The Keser of the lower level is the Malchus of the upper level. The Malchus turns into the Keser, and the Keser goes down to the Malchus. That's the main inyan of the Keser, which Keser is Ratzin.
Right.
Which is also called Machshava. Not a machshava of intellect. A machshava of ratzon. In a machshava of ratzon, that's where it says, Seif Ma'aseh machshava tchila.
Right.
It's talking about a machshava of ratzon, not a machshava of intellect. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The union of Seif Ma'aseh machshava tchila is in a machshava of ratzon, means in keser.
Right.
It means that what is in the beginning of the ratzon is the malchus, the Seif Ma'aseh. And what connects it is the middle line, the T.
Right.
That's why the Briach HaTichon is Mavriach min HaKotze el HaKotze. Because it's Mamish one Inyan from the beginning to the end, and that's why it's called Emes.
Right.
And that's the Kav of Yaakov. So now we're getting back to the text.
Where are we exactly?
In the second page there. 4 lines down, Hulu.
Okay.
V'hainu klalos inyan kava and tzoydatish mechabel beis kava in the yamin small u'prati his kalus and nikron yudbei gvule alachson kedua. The particular ways that they connect is called the yudbei gvule alachson, which in general they're either when you have the spheros in the three kavim.
Right.
It's kachav.
Right.
Hagas Nehi. There's basically in the ways that they connect. Exactly.
You have 12 lines that are.
There are basically 12 lines that they can connect.
There are 12 lines that are diagonal lines. There are 3 lines that are horizontal, and then you have must be 7 lines that are.
There's like 3 levels. There's
vertical.
3 levels, and each level has 2 lines vertical going down. That's 6.
Yeah, you have vertical, horizontal, and diagonal lines.
Yeah, right, diagonal. But there's 3 levels. Chabad Hagas Nehi, or Kachav Hagas Nehi. Right?
Right.
So in the 3 levels, there's 6 horizontal lines going down, pointing down.
Right.
And there's 6 pointing up. Like in a Magen David, there's 4 horizontal, 4 diagonal lines, 2 pointing down and 2 pointing up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 1 of those on each level. There's 1 on Chabad, 1 on Chagas, 1 on Nehi. That's basically one way. Then there's basically, I'm not exactly sure how that works, but there's another thing that I read in one of the explanations of Imre Bina, is that this is like in a sukkah.
Right.
In a sukkah, it's the studs. The studs are the lines of the sukkah, the studs. There's 6 surfaces, well, meaning the walls and the ceiling and the floor.
Right.
That's the 6 directions. And there's 8 points, which the 8 points later on, we're going to learn that in how the brain of Das opens up into, the Lamed base is basically,
right.
There's Chochmah, Bina, Chesed, Gvura. Das turns into 2, going up and going down. So that makes it 8.
Right.
And the studs, there's 12 studs. If you count them, you'll see that there's 4 in the ceiling. Right?
Right.
There's 4 on the floor. And 4 sides holding it up.
Right.
Also, if you look at the Kavi al-Lachsan, in terms of a sukkah, there's basically 6 lines made up of 3 lines, which means it's a cross a three-dimensional cross. And that's what you do when you do the Nanuim.
Right.
Those have 12 diagonal lines. There's more than 12 diagonal lines if you connect to the points also, but we're talking about connecting from the center to the studs. There's 12 diagonal lines. And basically, like the stud, on the stud, why is it called a diagonal line? It seems like the horizontal line. It's not diagonal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for a few reasons. One is when you're standing in the middle of the sukkah, like doing the nanuim, if you point to a wall, you're pointing horizontal to a wall.
To a wall, right.
That's how you do the nanuim. You're pointing at the walls and at the ceiling and the floor.
Right.
If you'll point to the studs,
it'll be diagonal.
It'll be diagonal. To point to any stud, you have to go diagonal.
Yeah, you have to flip the tape.
It's still horizontal, not diagonal. Yeah, but if you look, like if you take your book and close it, you'll see that the book is a cube, right? Or not a cube exactly, a rectangle cube, right?
Right.
And it's like a elongated sukkah, right?
Right.
Now, if you put your hand on the top, if you put your right hand on the top of the book, in the middle, now you move it over so half of it is on the book and half of it is off the book on the right side, right?
Right.
Now it's on the book, right? Now if you bring it over to the side, and now it's vertical. You know what I'm talking about? Now you're touching the right side of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's vertical, right? And if you touch the top, it's horizontal.
Right.
To go between the two of them, you have to turn your hand. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't know. Shimon, do you know what he's talking about?
If your hand is on top of the book with half of the hand on
like
the
a
book
corner,
and half
you know?
the hand off the book.
In order to turn your hand, there's a corner, which is diagonal.
You're on the corner. You turn along the corner, and you're going from your hand being on the top of the book, which is up, the direction of up,
right,
to the direction of right.
Right, okay.
In order to do that, your hand has to go diagonal.
Right.
Along that line. Like it's like a thing of a door, you know? Where the door turns on, like a hinge.
Right.
So those are hinges. Along those lines, it turns from top to right.
Right.
And along the front, if you bring your hand now, you're on the right, and you bring it to the front of the book, that's where it's going to turn from right to front. Right?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, it'll turn from front to left. Right?
Right.
So, the right and the left is two opposites. Same like the up and the down. So they don't have a diagonal line connecting them. Because they're two opposites. They have a horizontal or vertical line connecting them.
Right.
But there's actual connection because, in other words, the right is chesed and the left is gvura. Chesed and gvura can't actually touch. But, like the front is tiferes.
Right.
So to go from chesed to tiferes, you have to go through a diagonal line. And also in the chagas, in the three right, left, and center, diagram, it's also like that.
Right.
From Chesed to Gvura, there's a horizontal line. And from Chesed and Gvura to Tiferes, there's diagonal lines. So the diagonal lines is where it changes over from one to the other. There are different combinations. There's 12 different ways of combinations.
Right.
And those are the Tavi Alachson. Where are we? Like we said before, there's one Inyan from the beginning to the end. I know, and because it's Mabriach Min HaKotzer Al HaKotzer, and goes all the way to the Etzem HaRotzen, Shalamayla Mitchalkus HaKovin, like we learned before, and we're going to learn this again later. So the Pnimius HaKesser is Lamayla Mitchalkus Kovin, because the Rotzen comes in the Hechlet Atzmi. That's what he wants, and that's what he wants. There's no Chalkus Kovin in it. Alken, since it's higher than Chalkus Kovin, Alken Yesh B'Koichel L'Chav V'Lichlo L'Beis HaKovin. That's why it can include the two Kovin right and left in it. Ubiur Inya Pnimus HaKeser, the Netzolim, Shenikra Keser Sheb'Keser, V'hu P'chinat Keser D'Atik V'Arich, Atik Yom V'Arich Antin Chulu, Hainu P'chinas HaRotzen V'Ataynu G'Abba B'Gilui, Shenikra Ora Keser. Shagam hu kol miyut sfirus. Keser is also made from miyut sfirus. Ubchinat chochma shebekeser zewa ta'am larotzen v'nigra ta'am komus larotzen. V'ken yesh bo chesed v'netzach v'akol b'bchinas harotzen shu bilti mugbo gam sheba begilui me'etzem helen harotzen of ak. But when it comes, the actual rotzen is itself is bilti mugbo. Like we're going to learn this later. How the rotzen is actually even the rotzen ha prati is really bilti mugbo.
Right.
In other words, what he wants in the house before he starts thinking about it is an infinite house. There's no end to how much luxury he wants in his house.
Right.
In other words, even some stupid person like anybody, what he really wants in the Rotzen is the Palace of Versailles, or even bigger.
Right.
You know, where he'll have ballrooms and bowling alleys and who knows what. And a helicopter pad. It's only once it goes to the Seichel says, how are you going to get? The Seichel tells him how you're going to get a house like that.
Right.
There it becomes, but in the Ratzin itself, it's all infinite. And this will be discussed later. Gam sheba begil me'elam Ratzin kanal, va'al ken amidah sheberotzin v'tainug nikrim yemei kedem legabe midah shebechokma bina sheboim ba'agbolak pi'agbolas ha'seichel agoli bilvad. Now you notice that here he says, yemei kedem, that's legabe midah of Atilus, which is called Yemei Olam. But earlier in the book, he says that the Midos of Ak are called Yemei Olam. And the Midos before the Tzimtzum are called Yemei Kedem. So it's according to, this is like he says, Lagabe Midos Shebechokma Bina Shebayim Ba'agbolak Kefi Agbolas Hasechel Agoli Bilvad. Moshe Hitbonenut, this will be explained later. Ad Pchinas Malchus Shebekeser. When Pchinas Chitzoni is the Keser, meaning from Chokma of the Keser, not from Keser of Keser, Nechlach Legimel Tavim, Midnei Shebetama Komus LaRotzen, Nikra Itchalkus HaRotzen LeCheser Gvura Mamutza. In other words, when there's an explanation of why do you want this, where there's an explanation why, so there could already be a division of Cheser Gvura and Mamutza. Oh, but Keser B'Keser, the Etzem HaRotzen is Shalamayla Mitam Komus LaRotzen Adayim, Rak Rotzen Posher V'Asmi, Below Tam Klal. There's no reason for it. So that's what he wants, and that's what he wants. There's nothing to divide.
Right.
That's what he wants. That's it. You can't move to the right or the left. Only in the Tam Komus, there you can already move to the right and left. Why? Ki ein Tam la Ratzon klal. Gam lo Tam Komus. Really, there's not even a Tam Komus. The Ratzon itself really doesn't even have a Tam Komus. Means that's what he wants, and that's what he wants. And when it says ein Tam la Ratzon, say what he means. That the reason of the Ratzon is that he wants to get the Tainuk. Because that's not the time. We're talking about intellectual time. The thing that he wants to get the Tainuk, that is the Etzem HaRatzon. Ratzon and Tainuk is mamish the same thing. That's not what it means by time. It means a reason. Because the Tainuk also has why does he want this Tainuk and not another Tainuk?
Right.
You know, so that also, in the Ratzon and Tainuk, there's no, like they say, Alatam balarech and litvakech.
Right.
So why does somebody likes, this guy likes Chinese food and this guy likes Sephardic food? There's nothing to talk about.
But it's a taiva praktisch cautious.
Yeah, it's a taiva. On a taiva, that's what he wants. There's no, you can't, there's no reason. So since there's no reason, it can't be mitzchalak to right and left. And it's only in the Tam Komus once you come up with a reason, which the reason is really a rationalization for it. It's just to explain it really to other people, to show people that you're not totally crazy. But really it's not true. You are totally crazy. The real thing is that the Ratzon is totally crazy. It has absolutely no reason to it. Nikra et chalkos ha-Ratzon l'chesed gvorm mutzal l'kesher v'kesher so l'mayla mitam komas l'Ratzon dain rak Ratzon posha v'asmi blo tam klal ki ein tam l'Ratzon klal gam lo tam komus kinyan shtoi kach alav machshava about Rabbi Akiva. I think that's about Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah, it is.
That the angel said, that's what you give, that's your charge you give to the such a great Talmud.
Moshe Rabbeinu said, no?
Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu said it to the Rabbeinu Shalom.
Okay. Stoik, it says, Stoik kach alav machshava. You got nothing, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. Kach olav machshava is the etzem haratzon. You can't ask for a reason. There's no whys over there. That's what it is. Marsh and Lord Mokamacher. Al ken hulamala milchal mitchalchus yamin esmoil fulu. Agam sheba begil m'pina afreina shebehelam haratzon the p'chinas ak. Even though it's already a gilui from the helam haratzon of ak, it's still really infinite and without division. Kanal b'sof HaYichud, while the Amar v'vdila pareches ben HaKodesh and the Kodesh Kodashim. Pinas parsa sheben keser, the keser l'chochma the keser. The keser is called the Kodesh Kodashim, and chochma the keser is called Kodesh. Who pinas kruma davira. On the brain, there is a layer of air between the brain and the Golgotha. I don't know if the scientists know about this yet, but it's there. Their scientists already know that on top of the brain there's a layer of water, l'chluchis.
Right.
And then there's a layer of air, which that's the parsa. A parsa means a mile. What? How can you have a mile? Well, you know they say a miss is as good as a mile. Did you ever hear that?
A what?
A miss is as good as a mile.
Yeah, right.
If you're trying to shoot somebody, to miss him by 1 inch is as good as missing him by a mile.
Right.
That's no difference. So the thing is that there's a tiny little layer, it's called a mile. It's a separation. Once there's a separation, it's a separation. A parsa means a Persian mile, which is 2.6 miles. So it's called the Kruma Davira, and on top of the Kruma Davira, there's another on the bottom of the skull, and this also they know. There's another layer of machluchis, water, and that's called the upper water. The layer of the water on the brain is called the lower water, and the layer of the water on the skull is called the upper water. And when you can bring down from the upper water to the lower water, that's called Talad Tala de Bedolcha.
Right.
Tala de Bedolcha is a physical thing.
Right.
It's a physical drop of water. It's not actually water, it's a certain kind of liquid. But the liquid on top of the brain, our whole intellect, like they found out that it's not the volume of the brain, but the surface area of the brain that makes a person smart.
Right.
Because then he has more
wrinkles there are. In other words, more surface.
More surface. If there's more surface, then he's smarter, because it's the surface lachluchis, which is where the tainug is, lachluchis, is pnimius atik, it's pnimius abba, that's where the whole haskalas come from.
Right.
And that's the koyach hamaskil. The koyach hamaskil is chokhmah d'arich. This we learn in other places. It will be covered later. It's also covered in chapters 1 and 2. It's the koyach hamaskil.
Right.
The koyach hamaskil is basically the lachluchis on top of the brain. That's chokhmah d'arich. And higher than that is the Golgotha, which is the Etzem HaRatzon, which is Kesser should be Kesser, which that's called Kodesh Kadashim.
Right.
Now, the way to bring down the Tala de Bedolcha, which is also called Tal Tchias HaMesim,
right,
from the upper waters to the lower waters, is through the study of Chassidus.
Right.
So, when we say that the study of Chassidus is extremely addicting, we're not referring to a spiritual matter or an abstract matter. We're referring to an actual drug which is injected directly into your brain.
Right.
Not into your arm, into your brain, directly. It's a direct injection of a drug, like as if somebody would take a needle and put it into somebody's head and inject them with a drug.
Right.
And this drug comes from the Tainugim Ha'atmiyim. There's no bigger Tainug.
It's called Samachayim.
Samachayim. There's no bigger Tainug in the world than this Tala de Bedolcha being injected into your brain. Once somebody has got a injection of this, it is completely addicting, and there is no known method to beat this addiction.
Right.
Absolutely none. You can't, the AA will not help you. There's no such thing as a Tala de Bedolcha Anonymous, and even if there was, they wouldn't be able to help you. Once you get a taste of this, it's all over.
Yeah.
And we're talking about an actual physical, chemical thing.
Right.
The Tala de Bedolcha. However, unlike most other drugs that are deteriorative and are bad for your health and mess up your brain, over here we say, the advertisements, this is drugs, this is your brain on drugs, and then you get, like one of the guys was telling me, he says it's a weird advertisement. It looks beautiful.
Right.
He says, hey, that's my brain on drugs. That looks great. Look at those sunny side up eggs. That's wonderful.
Right.
It really, the Tala de Bedolcha is like that. It actually, not only does it not decrease your brain power, it actually increases your brain power. And not only doesn't it take away from your health, but it adds to your health to the point that when it reaches the inyan of a mabul, what's a mabul? You know what's a mabul?
Right.
When the upper waters are coming down to the lower waters, niftachu arubos hashamayim, and the Tala de Bedolcha is coming down, not just tippin', to where you get just a fantastic rush, but it's coming down constantly.
Right.
in infinite amounts, at that point, it actually makes a person immortal.
Right.
We are talking literally over here.
Yeah, literal immortality.
We're talking about literal immortality here. Not spiritual immortality in heaven. We're talking about literal physical immortality.
Right.
This physical immortality, a person who is immortal like this, you cannot kill him with bullets. Bullets will not kill him. Fire will not kill him. He will not drown in water. As a matter of fact, even supernatural creatures like demons and angels will be less than him. That's why the angels are so afraid of letting us have this taste from Eitz HaChaim.
Right.
So this is what we're talking about here. The Vila, the Kruma Davira, which is between the upper water and the lower water. And this is all explained in other places at the great length. From higher than the Kruma Davira. To change over the whole from the Ratzon Shel Din of the Golus to the Ratzon Shel Chesed of Bias HaMashiach, etc. This is enough to understand what we're really talking about.
Right.
That's what we're really talking about. We're talking about, in other words, and this is, even though it sounds absolutely ridiculous, if you don't believe this, you're a heretic. You're not Jewish. If you don't believe what I just said, you're a total heretic. You don't believe the 13th principle of the Rambam.
Right.
It says a Mason.
Right.
If you don't believe it, you don't. Not only in other words, not only can this keep the person who is alive immortal. There's something I left out. It can bring a dead person back to life and make him immortal.
Right.
Even if he's totally rotten and there's nothing left of him except the Etzem Luz.
Right.
So we're talking here, what is it? Jurassic Park times.
Right.
You know, gigantic miracle. And the thing that causes it is Chassidus. This is what we're holding in our hands is the hypodermic needle that injects the talib as a bedocha straight into your brain.
Right.
V'dai lamevin. We're not talking about lights of Kayu, huh? I mean, it's like totally ridiculous things.
This is the MS.
Yeah, but the thing is, look, I mean, this is not just Chassidus, it's straight halacha.
Right.
None of that. It's totally basic halacha. If you don't believe this, it's even before halacha. It's 13 ikorim.
Right.
If you don't believe this, you're a heretic. You're not a from Yid. You're not Orthodox. You're Reformed.
Right.
Not only that, if you don't believe this, you're actually chayav misa. You're supposed to kill a guy like that. Except in our days, they're tinach shenishba. That's the only reason why they're not chayav misa. To that extent.
Right.
You know. Not only that, this